travel to Nebraska Saturday, 11 a.m. kick on ESPN. Coach Leonhard is here. We'll have some opening comments, then we can take questions.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the patience of pushing this back. Obviously, yesterday was a very sad day around the country and around college football, and obviously hit a little bit closer to home for us with Devin, and just obviously our thoughts and prayers with the Virginia football family and Coach Elliott and the families and friends involved. Just very sad situation, and just unfortunate for our country right now, what we're going through.
Jim, this team has been through a lot, I mean, more than in a normal year. Are you concerned this week, given everything that's happened, about where they are here and maybe here, especially for the players who are really close to death this week?
Absolutely. I mean, been through a lot in the last month and a half, and our guys are resilient. That's a good thing and a bad thing, right? You constantly have to check in and make sure mentally they're in a good place, and we had a number of guys that are very close with Devin, and really hard to see them going through losing a brother and teammates, and very difficult to see yesterday, but they know they have the support around here, and we're just trying to do everything we can to support them and be available and let them deal with it the best way they can, and know they have a lot of help around here.
Cool. Could you kind of describe how yesterday went with, I believe you guys canceled your lifting in the morning. What was the rest of the day like for yourself and the team?
Yeah, we had a young group that was kind of in the lift when we got the news, and we reached out, obviously knowing Devin was there, just to make sure and find out and see if he was okay, and that's when we found out that he was not, and he was involved, and just hit you straight in the heart. I mean, there's no way around it. It was tough, and kind of at that time, the older group of players was getting in the building, and I mean, in most cases you're watching him see it and hear it for the first time, because his name had not come out at that point. We had talked to some of his family and found out the situation, so it had not been reported that he was involved. So majority of guys in that class and around that class just very close with Devin. And the thing that I'll never forget about him is his smile. I mean, that kid lit up a room. He had it all the time, on the field, off the field, and to see this group hurting like they were yesterday and even today. I mean, there's a good number of them that are not even close to being over that situation, and it shouldn't be. It's hard. Try to get them to focus for a short burst of time out on that field and in the meeting room, but outside of that, they're dealing with some really heavy stuff right now.
Jim, you guys have had to deal with a lot this season, both not getting the results on the field you'd like, and then obviously the off the field stuff that's happened this season. Can you just describe how tough the season has been? The last few months.
Yeah, when you come up short and adversity hits, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself. I think you learn a lot about the people around you, kind of the commitment of everyone involved. And unfortunately, it seems like we just keep getting punched, and we're going to get back up. That's all we can do as a program, as players, as men. Just continue to grind through it. And that was part of my message yesterday. I don't know the answer. It's hard to understand why certain things happen. You just have to trust that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and just continue to push and stay together and support each other, and you're gonna find that reward at the end. And it doesn't seem like it's there right now at times, but we can control as much on the football field as anywhere else, and that's where we want our guys to focus. When they get into the meetings, when they get on the field, you control a lot, and outside of here, sometimes that's not the case, as we found out yesterday. So just getting them to compartmentalize once again the emotions of it, the focus, not easy, right? Not an easy thing to ask, not an easy thing to do, but we're gonna do the best that we can.
And this team still does have an opportunity to qualify for a bowl. How valuable do you think those extra practices could be for you? Should you get a permanent role just to spin this forward and get the team ready for next season? And also, how valuable is it for some of the young guys from what you've seen over the years?
Yeah, making a bowl is a huge accomplishment. You know, not everyone gets that opportunity. You have to earn it. It's something you have to earn. So anytime you put out a goal and reach it, right? Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not exactly what you wanted at the beginning of the season, but when you accomplish that goal of becoming bowl eligible, it's a big accomplishment. There's a lot of teams that are hoping at the beginning of the season that they get there, and it's been very common here. But you have to earn it, right? You get what you earn, and it would be huge for this team. You know, we do have a young team, some inexperience, and every time you step on the field is an opportunity to grow and get better and get closer as a team. So those practices are very valuable for a staff, and obviously, if I get named the head coach, it just provides you an opportunity where you have a little bit more time away from a game. You can kind of set the standard a little bit more and just put them in different situations to help them grow. Hopefully, it comes up in the game, but really for the future as well.
Jim, I know last week you answered a question about James Thompson, but with him, with Isaiah, who's been out for a bit, how has he grown more in that time frame, do you feel? And how can he also complement others on that defensive line, both in the base 3-4 scheme and then also in the nickel?
Yeah, I think I just see the confidence week in and week out growing. You know, he was a guy that didn't have a ton of experience. I think early on was kind of feeling his way through, and now you're just seeing the emotion, you're seeing the physicality, just play in and play out, which is a lot of fun to watch. We knew he had the ability, and I think he's a guy that was overthinking a little bit early, and now just kind of letting it go. He trusts himself. You know, he trusts the techniques and the scheme that we're asking him to play, and I think you're just seeing a guy just getting more confident week in and week out, which is always, it's what you hope, right? It's what you expect with guys that are talented and care as much as he does, but you're starting to see the results every week, and he's got a lot of energy. It's fun. I love watching him make a play because everyone feeds off of it, and he's not afraid to show some emotion.
Jim, you know, you were asked about the offensive line after the game against Iowa, I guess line and tight end, and you said you thought Iowa did a good job of pressure. And when you guys broke down the tape, were your blockers having a hard time getting square shots like Iowa? They had edges on angles. Was that what led to the issues a lot of times, especially in the running game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're one of the best in the country for a reason, right? They're a physical group, very attacking group up front, and they take that challenge week in and week out. And I do think we were playing on edges a little bit too much and not being as physical as we needed to. And they made plays. They got after us up front. And anytime you have an offensive line that's struggling run or pass game to really handle the front, and you have a quarterback that's a little bit off, you're going to go through some struggles. But you have to find ways to create plays for them. You have to find ways to put them in position to have success, and that's where we struggled a little bit in the game, just trying to find that balance. We thought you'd handle them a little bit better than we did up front, and kind of playing on our heels for a lot of the game. And just getting behind the sticks a little bit as well. You know, it's been something that we kind of eliminated for those games we were playing well, but you start the second half and you kind of get behind the sticks a couple times again, and you just get out of a rhythm. And I think then you have to press, especially when you get down a little bit.
Cool. Jim, after the game, Braylon had tweeted out that his guiding to improve, I have to play better. I don't know if you've talked to him since then, but just where do you think that the next steps for him are as a player and developing as a running back?
Yeah, we've talked about it before, just how hard he is on himself. You know, he's harder on himself than we have to be as coaches. So we have to teach him. You know, we have to get him to understand when it's right to be patient. You know, when it's right to just be a hammer and get the tough yards. He's a young guy who wants to be great. You know, his expectation for himself, and he's really shooting for the stars as far as what his goals are. So puts a lot of pressure on himself, and we have to get him to understand, like, it's not just you. You know, we got to help you out. You don't have to be perfect. You don't always have to hit the home run, but we said we rarely have to be hard on Braylon because he takes care of that himself. We got to teach him. We got to get him to understand that, you know, the situations that those big play opportunities are there, and when he just has to get it done for us.
What do you tell Braylon after a game like that, or is he the type of player where you don't even really need to say anything because he just knows?
You don't have to say much at this point. You support him. You know, he took some shots. You know, I think the biggest thing we've learned, unfortunately, in a number of different games, he's tough. We know he's tough. We knew he was tough. We need to stop learning that lesson. But he took a beating in that game and kept getting off the canvas and try to compete. He knows he has to play better. He knows he wants to play better, and we're excited. I'm excited to see how he bounces back because he's shown that resilience and toughness, and now it's just getting to be consistent. And he had a good stretch where he was playing some really good football, and obviously ran into a good defense playing at a high level, and had a rough one and took one on the chin a little bit.
Jim, you guys have been scoring pretty significantly in the second half in Big Ten play, and the 5 losses in the third quarter has been really bad. What do you make of that? Is there anything that you've seen or studied that you find an answer for why that's happened?
Yeah, it's been inconsistent because the games we've won, it's been a huge strength of ours. Coming out the second half hot, you look at Purdue, you look at Northwestern, some of those games where we come out of the locker room and really continue to apply pressure. So that's been a little bit of the story of the season, right? Is the inconsistency, right? It's totally different teams. The one that's playing confident, the one that's attacking and causing problems, and then the one that has been rattled a little bit. And we have to even things out, right? We can't be that bipolar as far as how we played and how we handled adversity. And bad things are going to happen, especially when you play good teams. Sometimes going 1, 2, 3 and punting the ball is the right thing, and that's okay. We're playing good on defense. We have to trust that, and there's times where defense gives up a touchdown, and the offense has got to settle everything down. And in games we've won and played well, we've played that complementary football. And we mentioned after the game, the special teams, that has to be the constant, right? They have to impact the game in a positive way every single week, and we have not always done that. And obviously it was a glaring issue, the Iowa game, and put us in some tough situations that we couldn't overcome. So the complementary football is always at a premium. You have to do that, especially when you play teams that are playing well, and in the top half of the Big Ten, you're going to get in tight games, and you have to execute in all 3 phases.
Sure. Jim, you were asked Thursday about Lucy's possibility of playing. He's not listed as out today, but is he in the category of we have to wait and see how he practices this week to see if he'll play, or how does that situation stand right now?
Yeah, he was able to practice today, and we'll just continue to monitor it through the week. With the injury he had, it's always about carrying football, right? So we're excited because we think he's got a chance to go, but I think it's a little bit too early to determine whether that's real or not this week. I know he's going to be close.
Cool. Jim, you mentioned Graham's toughness, and I'm just wondering, has there ever been a point where maybe he's tried to push it and then you guys as coaches have to consider taking him out, or are the injuries not that severe? He's able to kind of push through those?
He's generally been able to push through it, but we do have to be smart with him, right? He's taken some shots. He's a guy who we understand who he is and how he thinks, and he is the ultimate competitor. So there may be situations where we have to step in and make that decision for him because he wants to go. And on Saturday we thought he gave us the best opportunity to win, and I had a lot of confidence in him. I truly think he can work through a lot of situations with his experience, and he trusts his guys around him. He's been trusting them more than in the past, so we felt like he was going to give us an opportunity to win it, and unfortunately we couldn't get it done.
Jim, back to special teams for a second. Over the years, there have been times when this team has had a dedicated special teams coach. It does not right now. There's been success both ways. What's your philosophy on that, just in general? Do you say a team should have one? You don't need one? How do you handle that?
I would say in the last couple of years, it's been unique on how a lot of staffs are handling it, right? With the larger staff numbers and just kind of how you've been able to dedicate things in the off-season, more off-season time to kind of get the planning down. And there's been a number of teams that have not had that full-time special teams coach, whereas in the past, you always had them, right? So I think it's something that we'll evaluate very hard, going forward. And the number one thing is you have to have a dynamic special teams unit, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. So if that's a full-time position, then that's the right decision to make. But it has to be an impact on games, and it has to be there week in and week out, and you can't have a dip in that area.
All right. Thanks, Coach.